Today, on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. At MCU, the 21-foot Paramount is readied for a custom paint job with performance in mind.
It could be the difference from 10 to 15 miles an hour if the bottom of this boat has a hook in it. So I'm going to put the guys on the bottom of the boat because I'm going to want this boat laser straight.
FS Boating Editor George LaBonte joins Dreamboat owner Howard Preissman aboard his fully restored classic 1977 46-foot Whiticar.
He ended up with something that even the people at the Whiticar Boatyard would be proud of.
The 31-foot Contender project gets a full repower in the rigging bay.
That boat looks pretty lonely out there with no engines on it, so I'm going to go ahead and get these engines uncrated and get them bolted up to the back of the boat.
And Brian helps the local Environmental Studies Center rig a PowerPole on their exploration boat, the River Scout. All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
All right, so if you guys can recall, I'm building a 21 Paramount for a good friend of mine, Steve Miller. This is going to be a really neat boat. I'm excited about the project. There's all kinds of work that had to be done to this thing. When he brought it to me, this was a pile of junk. I mean, literally, we knew we had to cut all the stringers out. We had to put a transom in. We were actually going to change and modify part of the cap on the boat to update it and modernize the look, make it a little more functional as well. Now that Roberto and the guys have gotten most of that structural work done, we're getting rounded up and ready for the paint shop. And I told Roberto that we've got to look at the bottom of this boat. One of the main things about doing the bottom of a boat that's going to be a performance high-speed boat is making sure that the bottom is completely flat. If there's a crown in the bottom of the boat or any rolled radiuses, the boat seems to suck down into the water and it doesn't get the lift and it doesn't slide across the water. It could be the difference from 10 to 15 miles an hour easily if the bottom of this boat has a hook in it. So I'm going to put the guys on the bottom of the boat and we're going to ferry this thing out to a T, because I'm going to want this boat laser straight. Now I realize these guys are burning through these fiberglass supplies like crazy, so I made a phone call to FGCI and had them bring in a fresh delivery. They brought a big truck in, they supplied with everything we needed to get this boat wrapped up, because Roberto and the guys got to finish it and get it over to Mike. I need this boat painted and rigged. I'm excited for this sea trial.
In order to give the Paramount's hull a perfect running surface, first, a straight edge is placed along the bottom to determine the high and low areas. Any low area is marked with a pencil and grinded down until all the gel coat is gone, creating a surface that can be securely bonded to. Once every low section is prepped for fiberglass, the outlines are traced onto paper, which is used to cut multiple pieces of fiberglass. Once cut, these pieces are soaked in resin and laid into place. Fiberglass is stacked until the low areas become level with the rest of the hull. Once these fiberglassed areas are dry, they're grinded smooth, creating an even, perfectly level running surface fit for high-speed performance.
Now that Roberto and the glass guys got that bottom all faired out on the Paramount, I had them rush it over to Mike and get that thing in the paint. I've got a really cool idea with this new metallic all grip, but there's so much fairing and primer that needs to be done, Mike had to get on this thing in a hurry.
Fiberglass guys finally finished up on the Paramount. Now it was on to me. Got a little excited and a little ahead of myself. Sprayed the top side and got the base on before I even called the camera guys. We're ready to put the clear on now. The one cool thing I like about this boat is the owner went with a stone gray metallic and he wanted the whole entire boat to be sprayed that same color. We had to actually suspend the boat off the ground so I could spray it all in one shot. We decided to go with the SC line of all grip paint, so we wound up having to put the clear on it. Now the one cool thing about this boat is we did a lot of extensive repairs on the bottom end to straighten it and make it really true. So Brian's very adamant on this boat, with it being such a high performance boat, to have this paint job laid down flawlessly. When we're applying this clear coat, we're going to try to lay it down absolutely as smooth as we possibly can to ensure we get the best performance out of this boat. Now that I'm done with this boat, it's on to the myth, the legend, Steve. Can't wait to see what kind of work he does to it, and I know it's going to turn out beautiful.
All right, now that the paint crew got that paint job wrapped up on the Paramount, It's really looking awesome. It's time to get it over Steve and get this thing rigged. I can't wait to go for a fast boat ride.
When we return, FS Boating Editor George LaBonte joins Dreamboat owner Howard Preissman aboard his 1977 46-foot Whiticar in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by PowerPole. Swift, silent, secure. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating Editor George LaBonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
This week, we're joining Howard Preissman on his beautifully restored 1977 46-foot Whiticar. Howard invited us to join him on an early season scouting trip to the east side of the Gulf Stream looking for yellowfin tunas. While on this trip, we had a lot of time to kill, and I learned that Howard had a really unique reason for starting this project.
Well, I was looking for a new business opportunity. I had been in the medical device business for my entire professional career, and I was looking for something different to do. I'd always been drawn to boating, and I wanted to tackle a carpentry project that could make use of my skills as a furniture builder. And I came across this Whiticar. It happened to be right here in Stuart where I live, and the owner of it hadn't used the boat in 5 years, hadn't left the dock. He had owned it for 25 years and was happy to see someone buying it who was actually going to restore it as opposed to just take it to the junkyard.
Howard started off with a great knowledge of woodworking, but when it came down to building the entire boat, he really didn't know what he was up against, and he was in for some surprises.
I really had no idea what I was getting into. I found this old boat. It was run down. It needed paint. It needed fiberglass. It needed a lot of what I would say mechanical work in terms of carpentry. You know, you looked at the inside and it was just beat up, and I said, well, that's something I can do. I spent the first 3 months tearing the boat apart. I wore a Tyvek suit. I had a grinder, really trying to get down to bare wood everywhere before we started rebuilding the boat. So it was a huge undertaking, and had I known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Ultimately, it was decided that Howard was going to have to enlist the help of professionals to deal with systems that he was unfamiliar with.
So working on this project, I had a master mechanic who helped me really from beginning to end. He was in charge really of the engine work, the generator, putting in most of the mechanical systems, helping with most of the plumbing systems. I had a professional electrician who did all the electrical wiring on this boat. I used a professional painter, fiberglass guy. He oversaw basically all the paint work, and I had 3 or 4 carpenters working on the boat with me as well. So there was a lot of professional help on this for sure. So when we first got on the boat, if you looked at the cockpit, the teak decks were worn out. You know, the hatches, everything was just a nightmare. It just wasn't functional. There was a lower helm station in the cockpit. I didn't think that was very functional anymore, given the way most people use boats today. Not that I had a lot of experience, but it seemed to be very valuable real estate for cabinetry and ice boxes, for bait. You know, you need a bait freezer, you need a drink box. The covering boards were originally painted fiberglass, so I needed to relay those out for rod holders. I put in the Carolina fish box and dressed it up with teak covering boards. Looking at the salon doors, originally they were painted white. As I tore the boat apart, pulled off some of the paint, and I realized that these doors were actually teak doors. So I stripped them down the bare wood and refinished them, and so now they're nice varnished teak doors, but these are the original doors in the boat. In the salon area, completely relaid it out to be more modern, so there's plenty of refrigeration and freezer space in the salon. The U-shaped galley with stovetop for cooking, we've got the sink, we've gotten everything you would need for family of 4 to travel around. Laid out a couch, which can double as an extra berth. And then as we moved through the boat into the lower sections, there were originally a single stateroom with a companionway upper and lower berth and full wet head, so you turn on the shower and the whole head would get wet. So I relayed out the staterooms and made it a 2-stateroom boat, laid out for basically a family of 4 to go fishing, or 4 guys could comfortably go fishing for, you know, a weekend or a long week, whatever it may be. The bridge required a lot of work too. There was a lot of damage from the recent hurricanes, so it really just needed to be redone. And because I was redoing it, I figured I might as well lay it out completely new. I put in new 2 helm seats as opposed to a single captain seat up top. I laid it out so you had plenty of storage, and I actually specially built a long bench seat that would be long enough to accommodate fishing rods. So that was one of the goals up there.
Now obviously Howard never ended up selling this boat. As it turns out, he was building his own Dreamboat all along.
While originally I was building this boat for resale, I certainly was designing the layout of the boat for myself and my family and thinking about how would we use this boat. So it was my dream boat I was building. I just thought I was building it for someone else's dream. 8 years later, it has turned into my dream boat because I have the privilege and the honor of being able to use this boat now on a very regular basis and logging more and more hours throughout the Bahamas and fishing and really enjoying the boat. My family loves it and I love it and look forward to using it as much as we can.
After looking this boat over from front to back, top to bottom, and seeing how beautiful the quality of this finished work was, it was hard to imagine this was Howard's first build. He ended up with something that even the people at the Whiticar Boatyard would be proud of.
After purchasing the hull and performing all repairs and custom modifications, the cost of Howard's Dreamboat comes to a total of approximately $1 million. When we come back, the 31-foot Contender project gets some serious upgrades in the rigging bay at MCU. This segment brought to you by Armstrong. Experience the Armstrong advantage.
Do you have the Armstrong advantage? In its most basic form, an Armstrong outboard bracket improves the efficiency of your outboard motor. This equates to a faster time to plane and higher top speeds. The list of advantages continue with improved maneuverability, added space, and a quieter ride. Adding a swim platform accompanied by an Armstrong boarding ladder will certainly add to your day out on the water. Isn't it time for you to gain the Armstrong advantage?
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join the crew at MCU as they begin the rigging on the 31-foot Contender project.
All right, so if you guys recall this 31 Contender that came into my shop for a fuel tank replacement and some hurricane damage repairs, originally the boat came in with a small punch list, but as things progressed, it actually turned in and morphed into a huge project. Now that we're putting the boat together, I'm gonna get Steve started with all the rigging. We're waiting on these engines. I need to get Dave to build me an awesome dash panel. This thing's gonna be over the top, completely unique and one of a kind, and I can't wait to see this equipment mounted in the dash.
So here we are. We got the 31 Contender back from the paint shop. It looks killer. So it's my time to go up there and start making a dash for Steve so he can get his rigging on. I'm trying to get as many cutouts as I can because this dash is gonna be full one piece. So I'm gonna have to bend it in 2 different spots. Since we're using 1/2-inch material, you wanna relieve the back part of the panel because when you go to bend it, it's kind of tough to bend 1/2 inch. It tends to wanna roll up on itself and give you a real funky bend. So I did that with a hand router, put a little V groove in the back, plus it helps me out heating the material. It's not as thick now. So once you got your material up on the table, our table consists of it's a rod, and it's a radiant rod, so it gets hot. I don't know the specific temperature. I use a heat gun as well because 1/2 inch is a bit thicker. But once I know that I got the material at the right temperature, I'm ready to go. So I had basically used a couple pieces of material to get my angle. So it's like an angle finder. You can buy them, but I made mine. I had a cleat on the table, so when I push my material up there, it'll hold the panel until I get my angle, and then I'll put another cleat down. So while it's cooling, you get a nice even bend, and it's not wavy. However, on the second bend, you don't have the liberty to do that. It's a little harder. So once I get the material heated up again, I had to run as fast as I can out there, climb up the ladder with this big panel, hopefully not drop it, get it in place, bend it in there, clamp it all down so when it cools, it holds its form. And I mean, I think the end result, man, is just a super clean, sweet panel, man. It matches the paintwork, you know. I mean, just, this one's over the top, no doubt.
Dave's actually doing an incredible job on the dash panel. Now it's time to get Robbie out of the inside of the boat. He's been buffing on this thing now for days. The buff magic is finishing this gel coat off incredibly. It's time to tie in that beautiful all grip paint job into the top cap gel coat, and we're gonna do it with a beautiful black taco rub rail with the stainless steel insert. Now that these guys are getting all this stuff done and put together, it's time for Steve to get these engines on. I've been waiting for them. They finally showed up. I can't wait to see them installed.
I just got the 31 Contender back from the paint crew. They did a wonderful job painting this boat. It really looks sharp. And my engines are showing up at the same time too, so that boat looks pretty lonely out there with no engines on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these engines uncrated and get them bolted up to the back of the boat. It's a lot easier to put my steering system on the engine while it's hanging than you can get in front of the engine. It makes it a lot easier. So I get it up to where it was mounted before, straight edge it, and I discovered, no, I can go up another inch with these engines. Got the first engine up there, got it mounted, got it beaded in with some 5200, secured the bolts, and then I'm going to bolt the second engine on. This one went a lot quicker because we didn't have to monkey with the heights. We figured out where we needed to be, and we got them on there, and it was a pretty quick install for these two engines.
All right, well, Steve might have the engines on the back of the boat, and Dave has the dash panel wrapped up, but that doesn't mean we're close to being done. There's one of the components in the dash that I'm really excited about, and it's this new Infinity head unit by Harman Kardon. I want to make sure Steve gets this thing put together, and I want to do an awesome job for this guy because he has no idea some of the things that are going to happen here, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
All right, now I've got the engines on the Contender. Brian brought me a set of Infinity speakers that's going to be going in this boat, so I'm going to jump on and move on to that next. So I'm going to start up on the bow. I already got two 6-inch holes up there, and the speakers I got to fill these holes, filled the holes perfect. I didn't have no bezels or anything made or no patching or anything, but I've got two subs that I got to put up there. The customer wanted his subs up in the front of the boat. I get up there, I measure out because, you know, they're going to be up in front of the boat and you're going to be looking at these speakers. They're going to be in your sight all the time, and I'm going to get them to where they're going to be perfectly even with the two 6s. So I'm going to draw my straight line and measure from the outside, and then I'm going to take the template that actually comes in the box with these speakers, which is pretty cool. It's a round template. You can either use the center or you can use the ring. In this case, I'm going to use the ring because I can get it so far away from the other speaker with the ring template, and then I can mark my hole for the first one, get the second one in the same place, measure, get it an inch away, mark the hole for that one, step back, look at it, and they look good. So I'm going to continue cutting the holes out for the subs. I'm going to cut them out, get them up in there, check them out, screw them in. Not only do these speakers require the wiring for the music to go through, they also require wiring for these cool lights, LED lights that are in these speakers that you can change to all different colors. They're really cool.
So the speakers in this thing look incredible. Steve's got everything mounted. It's coming out great. So I grabbed all the guys and we got the T-top up in the boat. Once that was done, I had to grab those guys and put them on some other projects. There's all kinds of things happening at the shop, and I had to get other projects wrapped up.
When we return, the crew at MCU helps the local Environmental Studies Center by installing a shallow water anchor on their exploration boat. This segment brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. At Marine Customs Unlimited, our professionally trained staff is committed to making all your boating dreams come true while providing unmatched attention to detail and quality. Specializing in custom boat building and modifications, fiberglass and gel coat repairs, insurance claims, upholstery and canvas work, custom dash panels, Yamaha outboard sales and service, and more. Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the crew at MCU helps the local Environmental Studies Center by installing a power pole on their exploration boat, the River Scout.
So I had a good friend of mine reach out to me and explain to me that the Martin County school system has this marine biology boat that goes out and has something to do with the Environmental Studies Center. So apparently they take kids out for rides in a boat and they do stuff. I don't exactly know, but I told them if they needed a hand, I was all in. My kids go to school locally in this town, and I'm all about helping out. I was told they didn't have a trailer for the boat, and they were asking if I would be able to pull it out, and I explained yes, that's not a problem. So me and my daughter went down to the boat ramp to pull this boat out of the water. Now, once we got it pulled out, I realized these guys aren't able to pull this and haul the boat a lot, so that's the reason why there's a lot of barnacles and stuff. I figured it'd be a good thing to me to get it back to the shop and get it cleaned up, and then we could discuss the problems that they're having and what maybe I could help them with. So after meeting with the captain, once the guys got the boat all pressure cleaned, I was able to find out they were actually looking to find a way to lock the boat in place when they pull up to the sandbars so they don't have to use a stern anchor all the time. And I explained to him that a PowerPole would be the perfect option for the situation. He's going to have the option and ability to anchor this boat from any position and at any time with his remote control. He loved it. Now what's all I've got to do is get Steve up in the boat and get one installed so Captain John can get back on the water and get those kids exploring.
Okay, we just had this River Scout boat come in, which is basically a educational boat for school kids. You know, they take them out and they check out all the critters and stuff in the beautiful Indian River here. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm, you know, actually helping the school kids by doing this. And it looks like this is going to be a pretty quick, easy job, you know, because the transom's wide open. I've got a nice sized bilge compartment down there where the pump can go, and I've already got a shelf down there. So I'm just going to measure on the transom, try to get a little bit above the water line, step back, mark it, pre-drill it. We're going to bed it real good with some good sealant. We're going to mount it. We're going to tighten it down. Now I've got to do my hydraulic lines. So I'm going to drill my hole for where my two hoses are going to go. I'm going to run them in. I'm going to put a little bit of caulking on them, make sure they're sealed, push them in, hook the pump up with the two lines, and now I've got to run my power. And fortunately for me, my battery's right there. So I'm going to, I'm going to clean it up a little bit better. I'm going to hit it with some corrosion, nice corrosion block, and then I'm going to clean up some of his wire, with this better quality wire, some Pacer wire. I don't want him breaking down out there, especially with a lot of school kids on his boat. And, to be a surprise, the guy's going to go, wow, thank you. But, so I got it all hooked up, so I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to run it up and down a few times, let it sit, let some of the air work its way back, and run it up and down a few more times. And it's operated by a remote too, so you can have your remote, you can be walking around the whole boat, you can activate it. When you pull up to an island, you can activate it, and these things are quick, they're silent, and they're swift.
Steve did an incredible job installing that PowerPole, and he got it done really quick. That was really something to help me out because we've got so much work to do here at the shop. Now that Captain John got his boat back out there, hopefully one day I can take my daughter out on it and see how this anchor actually works for the boat. And in the meantime, I'm going to get Steve back on that Contender so we can get that boat out of here.
Next week on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, Brian joins Captain John and his class aboard the River Scout for a day of exploration. The crew at MCU begins rigging on the 21-foot Paramount. And George LaBonte joins Dreamboat owner Gary Skroback aboard his classic 1972 Willie Roberts skiff. The filming of Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat has been shot on location at Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it.